Hey crafty people, welcome back to my channel, and in case you're new here, I'm Sarah, also known as Craft Nerd because I'm a nerd who loves to craft. I do paper crafting, card making, junk journaling, and mixed media art. Let's get crafting! So this wasn't on my planned to-do list for this weekend, but I had a thought hit me Saturday morning as I was making my breakfast, and it was such a strong thought that I was making scrambled eggs, and I had cracked the eggs, and I usually add a little milk or fat-free half and half to my eggs when I scramble eggs, and instead I put pumpkin spice creamer in. I did catch this before I actually cooked the eggs so I could dump those out, so I did not have the horrifying experience of trying eggs with made with pumpkin spice creamer. But yeah, I was so distracted by this idea that I almost pumpkin spiced my scrambled eggs. And I had this idea where I want to create a journal cover where it's two doors that open, like, you know, like this way, like a Haunted Manor's front doors kind of thing. This is a Giggle Glitter GFX printable, and I already cut it out, but I do need to ink edges. And it's actually from like a snippet sheet where there's a bunch of small elements, and I just cropped it so that I could print just the door so it would print larger. And in fact, it is a little pixelated, which you can tell because I tried this size, and this size is too small. I think I want the door to be the entire cover of the journal. And so yeah, it definitely gets pixelated as it gets bigger, but it's not so bad that if you aren't looking like really closely, you can hardly tell. So this is going to be the front of the journal, and I want to do it so that it is a gate open journal cover. So we're going to see how this goes. I've not searched to see if there are any videos out there on how to do this. I'm making it up as I go along, so we're going to see how it goes, and please excuse my hands. I've been dyeing paper. All right, so what I have is a bunch of comic book board, which, if you don't know, is kind of between a cereal box and a chipboard in weight, and it's what's used to package comic books. And I've got one piece that's cut to 9 by 6. I've got another piece that is 8 3/4 by 5 3/4, which is going to be on the inside once we start assembling the cover. And this is the back of the cover. Then I've got 4 strips that are 9 by 1.5, because I'm going to do a 1.5 inch spine. And because I'm doing a gatefold, I need a spine on both sides of the journal. Again, we're going to see how this goes. Fingers crossed it's going to work. And then for the front, again, I've cut out 4 pieces, 2 pieces that are 9 by 3. So this is how they're going to open up. And then 2 pieces that are 2 3/4 by 8 3/4, because they're going to go on the inside. And what I'm going to do for, let's set everything off to the side I don't need right now. For the back cover, I am going to cover it in some Tim Holtz Halloween fabric that I bought last year, because I planned on doing Halloween journals last year and got 0 of those done. So I'm using the Tim Holtz fabric. I want to use it to cover the back cover, and then the 2 spine pieces, and I'm going to put about 1/4 inch between, and I put together a bunch of comic book board pieces as kind of my spacer, so that you've got room for movement of the book. So what I need to do is cut this piece of fabric down, and I think I may do math for this. I think we're going to do math for this. I'm going to take a second and do the math off camera, because it's going to take a second and less pressure when I'm not on camera. All right, I did my math, and I'm going to explain my math. Up and down's fairly easy. It's 9 inches high. So I'm going to leave essentially a seam allowance of 1/2 inch. So I'm going to cut that height-wise to 9.5. Width-wise, I've got the back piece is 6 inches. The 2 side pieces are 1.5 inches each. That gets me to 9. Then if I'm doing a 1/4 inch gap between each of the side pieces. That's another 1/2 inch, and then add a 1/2 inch for seam allowance essentially. So that's how I got 10 inches. So we are gonna cut this, and I'm okay with the rough edge being most of my seam allowance on that side. So we are just going to cut this to 10, and I'm gonna flip my mat upside down and use the numbers on it to cut this to 10. And I'm trying to think this will get me 10 by 9 if I cut along these edges. So looking at it, it's right across this fold. Boy, trying to do this on camera, not the easiest thing in the world. And we're gonna cut down here to here. And I think, am I gonna just rip it? Yes, I'm just gonna rip it, which should be fine. So I just ripped it down, so that should still give us our 10, yep. And then this will give us our 9 if I go across here. And I'm gonna set the scrap pieces aside. So this is what we're gonna do first, is we're gonna cover the back piece with fabric. And why does this look so small? It looks really small. Because I needed it to be 9.5, not 9. That's why it's really small. Okay, go me. Go me. That piece. All right, let's get it right side up, because this is the way I want it. So is this gonna be wide enough, this piece that's left? Yes. All right. So we need it to be 9.5. So let's try this again. All right, so this should be long enough this time. All right, it is long enough. And I think I'm not gonna bother cutting it down. Let's see. Oh. That's going to be the space between that piece and this piece. Yeah, we're gonna do this so that we can wrap it around. So we're gonna set that piece there, so we only have a little bit of wraparound. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just glue that first piece down, since we know it's correct size-wise. And I'm using Fabri-Tac, and I'm gonna use a silicone spatula to smooth it out. And I'm just gonna go around and do that. Mostly so I don't have any like ugly glue lines showing. Got that down. Now the next piece, we're going to put our spacer between. And put this one butting up against our spacer. And we're going to make sure we line it up all right. All right, let's add glue to this. And I'm not going to do any sewing on this because this comic book board's, I think, too thick to go through my sewing machine. I have a feeling I would damage my sewing machine if I tried to sew. So that's why I'm making sure I get a good coverage of the Fabri-Tac. And then we're gonna stick the spacer again over here and grab our last piece to go over here. And again, add glue. And I'm gonna hopefully, oof, nope. We're gonna use scissors. We're gonna cut because that is not like in life. Oh, and that shifted over. Okay, that did not go well at all. So fingers crossed we didn't cut off too much over there because that did not go well. There we go. All right, I'm gonna pick this up, just make sure I'm glued down all the way, and see I'm seeing spots that aren't. So I'm gonna come in and add more glue wherever I think I need some. All right, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut off a little bit at the corners because we don't wanna have all that bulk. And I'm gonna cut close to where the corner piece is, see, so that when I go to wrap around, there'll be fabric left to cover the corner. So I'm gonna do that on all 4 sides. Now what we're gonna do is put one side up, and I'm gonna put the glue on the fabric this time because it's gonna go all the way across. And I'm gonna pull it up and over so that we get a nice tight fit of the fabric around our comic book board. I'm gonna do the bottom one first and then do the sides. We're gonna stop pulling on those threads because it's just unraveling stuff and making a mess. Okay, now we are gonna go along the side here and glue this side down. And I'm gonna pay extra attention to the corners, make sure they're nice and pretty. Just gonna make sure I get the corners covered. So pushing that down on the corners, get that covered, and that corner done. All right, so there is our back cover. And just realized something. I was supposed to leave extra space on here so that I could attach them with the fabric, and I did not. So that's okay, I will figure that out. All right, I'll be back, give me a minute. All right, I had a bit of a think, and what I have done is I've cut some 1-inch wide strips out of the orange that are gonna be used to add our front, the gatefold part of our front cover to the side pieces. This is gonna be where our signature gets sewn in, and this is just for the construction factor of the piece. So that's what I'm gonna use, but before I do that, I think what I want to do is I cut pieces of white cardstock out to cover this piece with, and I want to stencil this so that our door blends in. So I want to stencil this in like a gray with a gray stone stencil. So I'm going to do both of those pieces. That's what we're going to do next. Yeah, this is definitely one that I didn't have. Oh, I had a vague plan for, and we're just kind of winging it. We're just going to see if we can manage to create what I had envisioned in my head. And thank you for coming along for the wild ride. All right, so what I need is, all right, so this is My Favorite Things Brick Wall ST15. And it's from like 2014. So I don't know if it's still available or not, but that's the one I'm going to use. I am going to grab my little Altenew sticky mat, stick down my piece of paper. I am going to do a coat of, I think, Lost Shadow first, like my base color. I think I had some left on this from of Hickory Smoke because that got really dark, but I'm okay with that. And now I'm gonna grab, so I'm gonna pull over my stencil now and Hickory Smoke and go over it with Hickory Smoke to get my brick look going. We're gonna roughly line it up. All right, so that's going to cover this piece up. And then the door is gonna go on like so. So see, it just blends. It gives us the look of the brick wall continuing behind our door. So I need to stencil and ink the other piece, which I'm gonna do off camera. And then I think what I'm gonna do is wrap, because I cut it a little bit larger. So I cut this piece at, I think, 9.5 by 3.5 so that I could have finished edges. So what I think I may do is show you, I'm just contemplating, because what I want to also do is add kind of like doorknobs. These Tim Holtz Ideology, I forget what they're called, but I want to use those as like the handles on the door on either side. But I think I'm gonna, because I gotta wrap, I'm gonna attach, then we're gonna add the door. Actually, no, then we're gonna attach it to the other piece, and then we're gonna attach the door, and then we'll put the, yeah, okay. So the next step with this piece is gonna be to attach it to here, and I'm gonna use art glitter glue for this, since it's just paper to comic book board, which is essentially paper. Center it on my piece of paper like so. Again, we're going to trim a little off on our corners so that we have nice, neat corners, and that is not centered up at all, and it's too late because it's art glitter glue, but that's okay. It should be fine. So we're just going to trim off a little like that. Trim off a little like that, because otherwise you get way too much bulk on your corner. Like that. And like that. And I'm gonna use the comic book board to train the paper up for where it's gonna fold over. This one's going to be a little persnickety because it wasn't quite centered up, so there's less on that side. And we're going to go around and glue. Just making sure it's stuck down good, and go around and do all 4 sides. All right, so that one side's done. I'm gonna go ahead and do the other side off camera. I'm gonna stencil, ink, glue, and get that all ready so then we can attach the pieces together. So I'll be back in a bit. So I've got both pieces covered, and I am gonna put something on the back eventually. But what I wanna do now is cut my door in half. I'm actually gonna use my Fiskar fixed blade because I should be able to line up the center and use the guide wire to get me straight on. Just figure out which side of the guide wire my blade sits on. Okay, so it's gonna go, it sits on the guide wire to the left of where the guide wire is. And so I'm just looking and deciding, I think that's good. So fingers crossed. I think that's pretty good. Probably should have left it scooched over a smidge more, but I think we're good enough. And I'm gonna ink around all of my edges using Hickory Smoke so that we don't see any white edges. Now, I don't want my orange strips that I'm going to use to attach these pieces to the rest of the cover to go over the door. So we're going to attach these pieces. Let me just make sure I've got them lined up how I want. Yeah. We're going to attach these pieces first. So let me lay down. You know what, let's do this. We're going to put that piece down, go like so, grab our spacer piece, like so, and glue this down. Yeah, that'll work. So actually what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run a line of glue down here. Use my spatula to kind of smooth it out a bit so we don't get any lumpy glue showing. I'm gonna set this piece down on our glue, then put our spacer in place, then flip the whole thing over and upside down so that I can see what I'm doing better as I'm trying to do it, because that would make more sense than not being able to see what you're doing. All right, so I'm gonna put that there and that there. And we're gonna put glue down here. And I'm gonna use my little spatula to smooth it out. And I probably should have done this piece of fabric over a little bit more, but I think we're all right. And then I'm gonna butt this piece up against there. Yeah, that's probably more fabric than I want on here. But if I pull it off, my stencil is gonna get messed up, so we're just gonna leave that. We're gonna go with it. This is junk journaling, nothing's perfect. Yeah, this piece was like one of the bigger pieces that I cut, like somehow it got bigger than the other pieces that I cut off. So it's a little bit over an inch, so yeah, that's of course the one I put on first, because that's how I roll. All right, so we're gonna set this piece down again. We're gonna add glue to the edge. Lining it up top and bottom. Let's make sure our spacer is in the right spot so that when we line it up, everybody's in line, like going this way. And then I'm just gonna add a little glue to the top here and fold that over. All right, so once it's got a signature in and it closes, it's gonna close like that and then open up like that. Oh, this is gonna be cool if it comes out right. All right, so we're gonna add the doors to our piece now. And I'm gonna use art glitter glue. But let's fold it over this way so I'm not gluing this around the edge there, because I don't think that's gonna stay very well, and so it's just gonna cause problems. My plan is to trim off any excess. All right, let's grab our art glitter glue and do that. And what I'll probably do is come in and do some Hickory Smoke around the edges, and let's trim off the excess that's sticking off. And yes, I put glue all the way to the edges, but I wanted to make sure we got everything glued. So we're just gonna carefully trim away the excess bit without cutting our fabric. And we'll ink those edges as well. And I'll probably come in and make sure I've got glue. May add extra glue underneath just to make sure they're glued down well. And now we're going to do the same thing for our other side. So once we've got, all right, so this is what our journal's gonna look like cover wise, but we've got to put the journal in for it to actually work. And what I'm gonna do to keep the doors closed is I'm gonna use magnets, but I'm gonna need to put in the signatures before I can do that and finish off on the inside. So what we're gonna do, the last thing we're gonna do now is we're gonna figure out where we want our door knobs to go and put those in. Let's decide, I think maybe there and there. I think that works. So let's mark where we're putting them. So here and here, and I'm gonna punch holes with my crocodile. Okay, and now let's put our brads in. And I'm realizing, are they the same color? I need to pull out the pack and double check and make sure they're not different colors. Those do not look like they're the same color to me. Because that, yeah, there's two different colors. Okay, that's good to know. And why are you not, all right, you, let's get you in all nice and flush. I'm gonna grab a pair of pliers and just squeeze these down because they're not sitting down nicely. And what I think I may do is grab a piece of tape and just put a piece of tape over the back. I'm just gonna make sure we've got it the way we want it. And I'm just gonna put a piece of tape down to keep it in place because we're gonna cover that up. And over here, we're gonna switch for the one that actually matches. So this is how it's gonna look when closed. So next steps are, I'm gonna need to get the signature together because I'm doing a magnet closure. The magnet, I wanna have it hidden, and what I'm gonna do is put pieces on over on the inside, and I'm gonna cover them with decorative paper, and I may adjust these to make them the full size or a little bit bigger. And because you don't want a lot of layers between your magnet, what I want to do is put the magnet on here and then cover it with the paper. And I haven't printed out or figured out what paper I'm planning on using yet for here. And I also need to get signatures together because what I'm going to essentially do is probably a belly band on the first page of the first signature to have the magnet on there to serve as the closure. So there'll be a magnet on each of the doors and then a magnet on a strip going across that lines up with the doors. I'm also gonna cover this and cover these strips and add fabric. I'm doing a hidden spine signature or have the stitching show. So I gotta get that all together. So I don't know yet if this is gonna be a 1 or 2 part video, probably 2 part because it's probably gonna be long. So we're gonna probably stop here for now so I can get my signatures together and everything else that's going to go on the inside. So that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video, please do all the things that lets YouTube know you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave me a comment down below. Thanks for joining me and happy crafting. All right, so I am gonna go get some stuff together for doing the inside and I'll be back.